My name is Dr. Liang Zhou, Senior Researcher for the Hubei Provincial Institute of Biology. I don't know if this recording will ever be found. If you do find it, don't go into those forests. I first came to Shennongjia in 2014 under the guise of documenting endemic wildlife. But that wasn't the real reason. The truth was far stranger and far more dangerous. For years, I'd studied reports of the Yeren, China's so-called wild man. Local rangers swore they'd seen it. Hunters described huge footprints, 18 inches long, embedded deep enough to crack stone. The government dismissed it as superstition, but buried in the old archives, I found something the world wasn't supposed to see. In 1977, after Mao's death, a classified investigation was launched. Codename Project Red Vine. Officially, it was an ecological survey. In reality, they were hunting the Yeren. Only fragments of that report survived. Most were burned. But what remained told of mutilated animals, soldiers who vanished without a trace, and a final note typed in shaking hands. Whatever it is, it mimics speech. It watches us. It learns. That's why I went there, to find out if it was still watching. The forest swallowed us whole. My team, 3 assistants and a local guide named Wei, began our ascent into the western ridge, where sightings were most common. For 3 days, the forest seemed alive. Not with sound, but with absence. You have to understand something about Shennongjia. The trees grow so thick that daylight bleeds away into gray. The moss muffles your steps. The air smells wet and old, like something's rotting beneath your feet. Wei said it first. "Dr. Zhou," he whispered one night by the fire. "You hear it?" I told him I didn't. He pointed into the dark, eyes wide. When it moves, the forest stops breathing. That night, the forest did stop breathing. No wind. No crickets. Even the fire seemed to shrink away from the dark. Then came the smell, thick, metallic, and wrong. Like blood left too long in the heat. My assistant, Ping, vomited into the dirt. We packed up before dawn and kept walking. On the 5th day, we found the tracks. They were deep, impossibly deep, pressed into stone as if something weighing a ton had stepped there. Each print was over 40 centimeters long, 5 toes, human-like. But what froze me wasn't their size. It was the pattern. The tracks weren't random. They circled our campsite. Over and over. All night long, we refused to go further. He muttered something about the Shangui, the mountain spirits. Said the Yeren were their cursed children, humans who ate human flesh and were condemned to roam the fog forever. I laughed at him then. I shouldn't have. On the 8th day, we reached an old limestone cave the villagers called Haishan Mouth. Inside, the air was colder. There were claw marks on the walls, gouged deep into stone. The smell was overwhelming, decay mixed with something animal. We set up lights and began to document. Ping found bones, dozens, maybe hundreds, stacked neatly in a spiral. Some belonged to deer, some didn't. That was when we found the skull. Human. Crushed in. The jaw missing. But the strangest thing, the skull had faint carvings on the forehead. Lines, symbols, maybe words. When I traced them, the rock beneath was warm. That night, I dreamed of a face. Stretched, pale, hair matted with dirt. It whispered in a voice that sounded like my own. "You came back!" I woke up screaming. Morning came. Wei was gone. His tent ripped open from the inside. We found his flashlight 30 meters from camp, still on, pointing into the trees. There were more footprints, the same giant barefoot impressions, but this time 2 sets. One large, one smaller, and both were leading toward our camp. Ping wanted to leave. He said he could feel something watching him. I told him to calm down, that paranoia in isolation was normal. That night, I found him standing outside the tent, barefoot in the mud, staring into the trees. I called his name. He didn't move. Then I realized he was whispering. I stepped closer. He was repeating the same phrase over and over in a voice that didn't sound like his. It remembers me. The next morning, Ping was gone too. I should have left. But I stayed because I saw them, eyes in the mist. Not animal eyes, too high, too wide apart. They glowed faintly red, like coals pressed into the dark. I shouted. The eyes blinked once, then vanished. An hour later, we heard laughing. Not the kind from a person, that it was broken, uneven, like an animal trying to laugh. And somewhere, echoing faintly, my name, my last surviving assistant, Chin, insisted we set up the motion camera traps before leaving. When we reviewed the footage the next morning, I felt my stomach drop. There was something there. Between 2:13 and 2:18 a.m., one camera caught a shape, massive, hunched, covered in dark fur, crawling on all fours toward the camp. But the worst part? It stopped, stood upright, and looked directly into the camera. The face, God help me, was almost human. Flattened nose, wide mouth, eyes that looked aware. But there was something else in the background, something standing behind it. Taller, thinner, smiling. The footage cut off. When we went to retrieve the camera, it was smashed to pieces, metal twisted like paper. By then, Chen and I were delirious with fear and exhaustion. The forest itself felt alive, pulsing, like lungs inhaling beneath the earth. Every path we took led back to the same clearing, the same dead tree with a spiral of bones beneath it. Chen screamed that we were trapped, that it was moving the forest around us, and maybe he was right. Because by sunset, the trees had changed. I don't mean they looked different. I mean they were closer. The trunks leaned in, pressing together as if the forest itself wanted to crush us. Chen ran. I heard him crash through branches, calling my name. Then the laughter came again, and the silence after. I don't know how long I've been here. The fog doesn't lift anymore. I haven't eaten in days, but I hear them. Not one, but many. They whisper from the trees, from beneath the soil, in voices that sound like the ones I lost. Wei, Ping, Chen, and sometimes my own. They tell me to look. They tell me to remember. I can see them now, just beyond the tree line. Shapes, tall and bent, their skin pale under the fur. Eyes empty, but watching. And above them, carved into the sky like a wound. The same spiral I saw in the cave. I understand now. The Yeren aren't animals. They're echoes. The forest's memory of every human that ever died here, walking, hunting, imitating, evolving. We made them, and now they want us back. I can hear it outside the tent. It's repeating my name. Each time it sounds more like me. If anyone finds this recording, don't follow the tracks. Don't believe the silence, because in Shennongjia, the forest remembers.